At InDigital, we know the public safety professionals hold themselves to a high standard. In fact, standard doesn't do it justice. In over 25 years working alongside you, carrying millions of calls over our IP networks, your dedication has inspired us. That's why our ESI Net goes beyond industry standards, not only i3 compliant, but designed to adapt to future development for a network you can count on when it matters most. Learn more at indigital.net.
If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader in next-gen core services, and shout out to patrons and Facebook subscribers. As always, thank you all very much. I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for all of you, but especially all of you who are watching, sharing, supporting, all of it. Thank you very much. We've got a lot of stuff going on, as usual, and I am fresh back from the Texas Public Safety Conference 2023 out in Galveston, and it was an excellent time. I was the keynote speaker out there. I did my keynote in emergency landing, and it's basically a story about a plane incident that I had on a flight from Alabama back to Detroit when this was years ago. This was back in 2018, and I used that story as a way to compare to dispatch on how sometimes we feel like our personal airplane is going down and how we can ask for help and land safely. So it was an excellent one. And people were coming up saying how it felt so real, and that the storytelling, it was just a powerful message that was put out there. So thank you, all of you, all the attendees that were there, but especially to the Texas Public Safety Conference, both committees, Nina and NAPCO, for bringing me in and allowing me to share my story. But also I was out there doing 2 sessions of Imagine Listening, which are episodes that'll be coming up in the next couple of weeks, as well as I was out on the vendor floor, the industry partner floor, and recording episodes, doing live broadcasts and everything there. So again, thank you all very much. And we've got more conferences and appearances and everything coming up soon, and that will be going out. And we're about to start this episode. I am super excited. I was just talking to my guest. We were just laughing and going through a bunch of stuff. Oh man, we could have been coworkers. I'm super excited for this one, as I said, and we're going to have a lot of fun here. So my guest today is Audra. She's a public safety telecommunicator with St. Clair County Sheriff's Department out of Alabama. Hello.
Hi.
So, as I said like 20 times, I'm excited to have you on. I saw your story before. I think you had put it in the comments, and I had seen your story and stuff, and my assistant producer and we were trying to figure out how to get a hold of you. So when you had put the story in the comments, I was like, yes, there she is. We can bring her on and share her story. So thank you so much for taking the time to be on with me today and to share your story. And what's funny is that I had shared that emergency landing story, and it was something that originated in Alabama, and you're out of Alabama, so that's kind of funny. But again, I am glad to have you here, and let's just jump into that DeLorean, hit 88 miles per hour, go back in time, and let's find out how you got started in public safety to begin with.
I was a CNA working for our local ARC, which is the Association for Retarded Citizens.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been assaulted by a client, and my supervisor said, "Well, you knew what you signed up for." I go home, talking to a friend, and he goes, "Hey, we have an opening where I work." He'd been a dispatcher for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "We have a part-time opening. You'll get more hours working part-time with us than you're getting now, and the pay's better. Go in, I interview, get the job." That was in November of 1999. I was a amateur radio operator, licensed ham operator, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how I knew him. And that was the one thing that I had going for me, that I got the job. Uh, First day on the job, I walked in. My training officer, which we really didn't have any type of training back then. I walked in, she said, "There's your chair. There's your mic. That's the button that you press to talk. I'm going to smoke. If you screw up, I'm going to kick your ass." That was the training I got.
Oh, holy crap. Okay, hold on. Let's stop. let's rewind really quick. Holy cow. Okay, so you've got this experience, and I kind of feel like some of the stuff that you were doing during that time was kind of preparing you as well for what you were going to be getting into in 911. Some of the people that you were dealing with, of course, that was all hands on, right? But the almost like the customer service, the caring, the words being used, all of that preparing you for getting into 911, and you get a chance to go in, but also you've got ham radio experience, right? So you know how to talk on a radio. So there's nothing there where, for myself, I didn't have experience like that coming into it. So it was kind of, and not just myself, but others as well, that you go in, and once you get on the radio, you're like, am I saying this right? Am I supposed to be saying it this way? Do I keep my voice like this? Like, there's so many different variables,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have a lot of experience in a sense coming in for the job that you're going to be doing. However, going in that first day and being brought in, it kind of reminds me of when I first started in Central Florida, but with 911 calls. So my trainer showed me everything, right? He's taking a 911 call. I watch him, I'm observing, and then he goes, "Now it's your turn." And I remember thinking, hell no, like, there's no way. Like, there's got to be more training. So I can only imagine headed out to go have a smoke. Here's your button. Here's this or that. Do it to it. Was that overwhelming? Like, what were your thoughts?
I was 28 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there wasn't anything I couldn't do. But it was definitely trial by fire. We, I was, I wasn't even EMD certified until maybe 12 years ago. Um, I worked 18 months with St. Clair County.
Mm-hmm.
I left St. Clair County and went to the Department of Public Safety. So I went to state troopers. We weren't EMD certified.
Mm-hmm.
Because we didn't handle that part of it. We didn't take 911 calls. We basically got the cleaned up version because the medics had already been there.
Right, correct. Yeah.
All we were doing was sending the trooper out to clean up the mess,
Mm-hmm.
to write the report. I did that for 14 years, and they went from being the Department of Public Safety to ADM. I mean, that
Wow.
not ADM, to what have they changed to now? ALEA, Alabama
Okay,
Law
gotcha.
Enforcement.
Right, yeah.
And when they did that, they started consolidating radio rooms and closing them down. Well, my radio room was one of the ones that got cut. And I was not willing to drive 150 miles round trip to go to the radio room that they wanted to send me to. So my old boss said, well, until they get the radio room shut down, you can work with us part-time, and maybe by then we'll have a full-time. So in April 14th will be my 9 years back at St. Clair County. I worked from April till November, part-time, full-time with the state, part-time with St. Clair County. And then in November, I cut ties with the state and went full-time back with St. Clair County, and been here ever since.
Wow. So so you started in 99. I started in 2001. So we're pretty close there. And my dispatch career ended in 2013, but I've been on the private side working and then now on my own and stuff. So we have kind of around the same years. You've got 24, I've got about 22 going there. And so wow, there's a lot of differences. So for those that well, differences and similarities, of course, but for those who are watching that are of the general public. So when you hear us talk about EMD, this is a certification that we need. It's emergency medical dispatch. This is a certification that in some dispatch centers that do take medicals, they need this certification. When I was in there, it was a stack of cards. So based on questions, you switch to those cards that line up with it, and then there's all of these different instructions, and then there's pre-arrival instructions. Now I'm sure there's some places that still have the cards, but there are a lot of other places that have done it digital now.
We have a flip book, and we have it on our computer. I find the flip book easier because that's what I've always used.
Right, yeah.
And it's just what you get used to. The new kids that are coming in, they like the digital file, because in the book where it's you've got like, oh, it's a traumatic injury. Are they bleeding? Well, flip to this card and do this. Are they breathing? Flip to this card. And on their digital file, all they have to do is click the little link instead of flip through the book. So they like that.
Yeah.
I still use the book. I still do go old school. I still hate it when I have to pull the book out because it's always in the back of your mind that if I screw this up, everybody's getting sued.
Right, yes. Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. Like, it's on me, if I was still dispatching right now and we still had the flip cards, I would probably the same as you, because that's what I learned on and that's what I'm so used to. I mean, I've been out of this July 22nd, I will be out of dispatch for 10 years. But even with that, I have those pre-arrival instructions basically memorized still, to the point where a few years back, my son had a friend over visiting, and they were playing, and he had a small cut and was bleeding a little bit, and I was helping him with it, and I started. I said, so I have this cloth. I got this wet cloth, and we're gonna press, and I want you to press it down with force and make sure it's pressed down hard enough. If it's still bleeding, you're not pressing hard. Like, I'm going through the pre-arrival instructions with him.
And if it bleeds through, don't take it off. Just put another one on top of it.
Right. And I'm telling this kid this, and he's just staring at me, and he goes, "Thank you, Mr. Martinez." And I was like, what am I doing? It's like, I'm not on a phone call. What is going on here? I'm reciting all of this to him, and he's just staring at me. I was like, all right, like, go play. It sticks with you is what I'm getting at. No matter what, it sticks with you. So
we have a new thing. We have Prepared Live.
Oh, I've heard about this.
We can send them a link and we can see what's going on. And yesterday guy put too much air in a tire and it
Mhm.
blew up in his face
Oh, no.
and busted his nose and his mouth. So he's sitting there like this with the rag, and it looks
Mhm.
like he's got the alien monster on his face, and you know, blood's coming out. And I'm like, I don't want to see this. Why did you send that link? I didn't want to see this.
Right.
You know, you're yelling across the room, hey, you, and then somebody else is yelling, wait, I want to see what it looks like when they take the cloth off.
Yeah, I mean, I've been around when stuff like that happens, and I've actually always wondered myself, like, when the tire explodes, does that impact, the whatever it ends up going out, like, do they get really injured in their face, or does it make them fly back? Because, I mean, it's a tire, right? So, if you're
A lot of
thinking that it's
pressure.
gonna pop, right, yeah, a lot of pressure. How does that happen? It's like if you shake a bottle and you go to pop it open, that cap starts flying. So, what happens? So that's pretty crazy there that now that you get to see all of this. So I'll ask you this really quick then as we're going through the beginning and everything of your story here. How much has the technology changed since you started in 99?
In 99, we had one NCI unit that was on
Mhm.
a roll around tray with a dot matrix printer
Oof.
that we had to share. There were 5 of us in the room and we had to share it. Um, Paper logs. I it was primitive.
Right. Yeah.
It was
Oh
primitive.
man.
Um, Luckily, I'm I I feel like I have grown up with the technology
Hmm.
and grown with the technology, so it hasn't been as bad for me as it was for, say, the older people that were in there when the technology started changing. Um, we had some people that just couldn't grasp it, and they didn't stay. But and they were good, dependable, seasoned dispatchers who knew
Hmm.
what they were doing.
Right.
They just couldn't grow with the technology. But I
I
mean, I think it happens everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does, and sometimes, you think that the ones that are more seasoned that won't get it are sometimes the ones that wanna do it. Because I know no one likes change, but the reason I say this too is because I was and this is years ago now, but there was, some text to 911 training that I was doing for the company that I was working with back then, and we were in West Virginia, and, we were in Charleston, and at this center, I remember the training coordinator saying, "Ricardo, I have a feeling that some of my more seasoned, dispatchers and call takers are not gonna do well with this because nobody likes change, but the younger crowd will be the ones that'll just love it." And it was the exact opposite. The younger crowd there did not want to deal with it because they were, I don't know, they were having anxiety that there was gonna be too much, they were gonna be bombarded too much, but the seasoned ones that were there, they were loving it. They're like, "This is great." Like, we're and they were just jumping onto it, and I remember looking at the training coordinator, and he goes, "I don't know." He goes, "That was different from what I thought."
I'm not real crazy about texty.
Mhm,
Um, Now the prepared live is cool.
mhm.
I didn't think I was going to like it, but it is really cool. Uh, we had one dispatcher deliver a baby a few weeks ago. That was really great.
Nice.
Um, but texty still bothers me, especially when you get the kids playing with the texty. That
Oh, I can see that, yeah.
that kind of bothers me. Um, but the technology today is Rapid SOS is one of my favorite things.
Mhm.
It's amazing um, because when you get the I don't want to be rude. When you get the ditzy little girl who talks like a valley girl and she just doesn't know where she's at and all she sees around her is the trees, you can look on your little map and go, okay, honey, you're on I-20 eastbound at the 156 and I'll send somebody out to help you.
Yep, it happens. Right? But the good thing, though, is that it's there, right? Because I remember starting in 2001, and then even when I left the small PD that I was working for and moved back home to Southwest Michigan and working at a central dispatch in Allegan County, the county that I grew up in, even then, 2006, 2007, all the way up until the point where Rapid SOS was available, I remember going home sometimes because some of those phone calls, we could not find the person. And then wondering, what happened?
Yeah.
What could I have done more? And so a lot of those really stuck with me, and, there was trauma from that, not knowing where that person is, and, just feeling helpless because you're trying to do everything that you are supposed to do or that you wanna do, almost to the point that you wanna jump through the phone and be like, "Let me help you, let me hold you," or whatever, but it doesn't happen, and you can't find that person. But now, with the technology, I feel jealous sometimes because I wanna go back into dispatch only so that I can use some of those tools because damn it, back then that wasn't there, and that really that hurt,
We had
there's some of those
one
haunt me.
we had one where, Alabama, big
Mhm,
hunting area, and we had one where the guy was going through the woods in his truck that he had built just for hunting, and
mhm.
all it was basically just a rail job. And he hit a buck. Buck came out of nowhere and came through the windshield and had him pinned. The antlers came through the windshield and pinned him through his chest to the
Jeez.
seat. And he didn't know where he was at.
Mhm.
He knew the hunting management area that he was in, but he didn't know where he was at. And it took us hours, it took us hours in the prison dog team to find him. And
Wow.
he survived, but I mean, it could have been ugly. And technology like we have today would have been, I mean, we could have been in there and out of there in minutes
Right.
instead of hours.
Oof. Yeah, again, like I said, there's a huge difference, especially when you're thinking about some of those printers. Because as you mentioned that dot matrix, when I was in, the central dispatch, again, this is like 2006, 2005, 2006, and on, um, we had one of those when I got there, we had one of those big dot matrix, printers, and I was in training, and it was summertime, and you've got these drunk driving, grants or the click it or ticket grants and
Yes.
everything, and they're running stuff, and I remember having to tell them, "You're gonna have to hold on because the way this system works, I can only run one person at a time. Once that person is run, then I can run your next one." And for whatever reason, somehow, it was like my welcome to dispatch hazing, so to speak, the dispatch universe getting me.
Hmm.
This group of people that they had pulled over, one of them would have a Smith. So then I'm running it, and you just hear the ring, 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 ring. And I'm like, oh, and the officer saying, anything back central? Like, no, you ran a common last name. You're not gonna get anything for a while.
Oh, how about I've got Zendavier Smith. Zendavier, common spelling, Smith, Sam, Mike, Ida, Tom, Henry. Okay, spell Zendavier for me.
Right. See, now that is just the officers wanting to give you shit.
Yes.
Of course. Oh, man. So when you had first started out, though, Did you do a sit-along or anything, or did you just go in and they're like, "Bam, there's the radio, here's the button," or whatever, and you're done? That's it.
I didn't sit in.
Mhm.
They gave me a start date. I went in my first date. I started. They put me on a radio. I had a list of 10 codes in front of me and what they meant. And I was probably slow as molasses at the North Pole in the middle of December,
Yeah.
but I got it done. Um,
Do you ever feel overwhelmed there in the beginning?
I'm sure I did,
Mhm.
but it was exciting too.
Oh, excellent. Yes.
I have always, I have worked my way through several things that could have been lucrative careers.
Mhm.
I was a CNA. The last place that I had worked before I started dispatching offered me a scholarship to go to college to get my RN. I found out very, very, very quickly that being an RN is not for me, because when you draw blood and you pass out as soon as you see it, you can't be a nurse. But I waited tables for a while
Mhm.
after my first divorce. That lasted about 6 weeks. I threw a baked potato at a woman, and they decided that I wasn't waitress material.
Oh, well. You were just playing hot potato. It's all good.
No, no, no. She was very ugly to me,
Mhm.
and I kind of just tipped the plate. She sent the potato. It was Waffle House. Do you know
Mhm.
how they do baked potatoes in a Waffle House?
No, but I've had their breakfast.
They, in the first thing in the morning, they boil a pot of potatoes.
Mhm.
Then they wrap them in foil, and if somebody orders a potato, they heat it up.
Oh, wow.
So you've got this boiled potato.
Yeah.
She said it was cold. Okay, I can say that maybe the first time it was cold because they're in the refrigerator.
Sure, yeah.
After the 5th time of this thing being in the oven and her telling me it's cold, when it's got melted cheese all over it and chili and all kind of salsa, and they had this really gross, fully loaded baked potato that had
Mhm.
everything on it. I mean, I think it even had a scoop of mayonnaise on it.
Oh.
The 5th time she told me that it was cold, I just tipped the plate and let it roll off the plate into her lap and said, "Take it home and cook the motherfucker yourself because I obviously can't do it right."
Oh, man.
I got to work the next day and they asked me for my apron back.
They didn't even let you keep the apron? That's messed up.
No, yeah, they took the apron.
Well, so, I mean, again, like, so with, food, retail, or just all of that stuff does prepare you in a way for the types of people that will end up calling, whether
I'm
it's
not a people person. The one good thing, and I had a trooper that, bless his heart, I love him to this day. He
Uh-huh.
was one of the best friends I've ever had in my life. He told me that I would make an outstanding state trooper, except for one thing. My first day on the job, I'd violate somebody's rights because I don't like people. And he's right. You can't get your hands on the people that you have to deal with in dispatch.
I mean, you've been doing this for 24 years, though, so you're obviously good at it, though. People person or not.
Um, I tuck everything away. I have a filing system in my brain,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of the day, everything goes in a box, and the box goes on the shelf.
Makes sense.
And lately, I've been having some issues with some of the boxes coming open and the stuff spilling out, and it hasn't been good for me. We are on the fourth antidepressant, second or third mood stabilizer. I think we got it right this time, though, because for the first time in a long time, I feel like me again.
That's good. That's very good.
And there are a lot of people that are responsible for getting me to this point. A lot of people that recognize that something was off and that I needed to tweak something somewhere along the way. So I feel like myself this week.
That's good. That is very good. Especially in this job, because there's a lot of ways that that people can go. And I myself in the beginning was one of the dispatchers or call takers that would bury my calls as well. And it it wasn't the best thing. Like I learned the hard way. I was thinking that I was leaving it at work, but that was bullshit, because me, the way I would act at home, kind of distant, or, dispatch here is still going, which even 10 years out, I still have that dispatch here. It still goes. But my problem at that time was nobody was talking. Nobody was talking about anything that we do, these calls or anything. Nobody wanted to look weak for asking for help. So once I finally stopped caring, once I stopped giving a shit what people would think of me for asking for help or for sharing my stories, things started to change. Like for me specifically, me personally, it was therapeutic to share. And I started writing it down, and then I started doing what I do now, having other people come on and share their stories, and they were starting to feel it as well. Those who were listening were understanding more about this job and this profession and why people do what they do, and that it really is a calling. There's only a certain amount of people that can do this job, and you and I are just two of those people who can do this job. And it's something else. It's an experience. It's hard to explain what it is really like, which is why I'm glad, I'm doing this, and that we're having this conversation so that people can continue to learn and realize that people aren't just answering the phone. There's a lot more to 911.
If it were easy, everyone would want to do it.
Right. Yeah. We definitely don't do it for the money, right?
No, no.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's way more to it. So in the beginning, as we're going into this, um do you remember some of those calls, like when you first started out, or were you just um on the radio first? Like how did you even transition
We
going to different spots?
we do it all. Our
Mhm.
our center is all we do it all. We call it, I mean, you're sitting there, you got a radio going, and you may be talking on 911 and answering your radio at the same time.
Mhm.
Um, I remember we had an officer who he and his wife had just had twins.
Mhm.
They were preemies, and I took a 911 call the 2 days after they came home from the NICU. One of them wasn't breathing well, and I wasn't EMD. I was just a mom. I just had my mom experience behind me, and the baby stopped breathing. And I said, take her over to the freezer, open the freezer door, stick her head in the freezer. And they're questioning me, why do you want me to do this? Well, the baby's got croup, cold air. She started breathing again.
Mhm.
And it was enough to shock her into struggling to breathe until the medics could get there. Both babies are fine now. They've graduated from high school. You know, you just, the things that stick with you are the things that have a personal connection to your heart, I think.
I agree
My
there.
my most heartfelt call was when I lost my best friend.
Mhm.
Um, I got called into work. I was supposed to go to her mother's funeral, and they called me into work. And about 2 hours after her mother's funeral should have been over, I get a 911 call, and it's her daughter. And I knew it was her daughter, but I didn't, I wasn't like, Stephanie, it's me. What can I do to help you? You know, and she was gone immediately. She had an aortic aneurysm, but I didn't have to talk anybody through CPR because her husband was the local scoutmaster and he taught CPR, and I could hear them in the background doing the countdown, and okay, 2 breaths now, 30 compressions, and I can hear all this going on, and I'm just trying to keep Stephanie calm until the medics can get there. And it sticks with me because not necessarily because I lost my best friend. It sticks with me because I could hear her husband begging her, please don't leave me. They'd been married for 25 years. Please don't leave me. Please don't leave me. And then I made it a habit after that. Once a week, I'd make a phone call. Are you okay? Are the kids okay? Do you need anything? That was in 2014. I had just gone back to 911 from working with DPS. And then in 2018, I lost my husband. He started making it a habit once a week. Do you need anything? Do the boys need anything? And then in October, he asked me out on a date. And we got married in November. And we just celebrated our 4th wedding anniversary last November.
That's awesome.
So,
Now,
God makes things happen for reasons.
right, yes. And I'm a firm believer that some of these phone calls are meant for us. You were supposed to be going to your best friend's mom's funeral, right? And you were called into work. And as you said, those 2 hours later, you end up taking the phone call from her daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie's her daughter,
My
and
stepdaughter now.
stepdaughter now, yeah, and it was for your best friend, and the reason I say some of these calls are meant for us is because we have either a life experience that helps us with this caller or specific caller, whichever, better than anyone else. Because I mean, any of your partners, right, probably could have taken that call and would
Mm-hmm.
have done good. However, they would not have had that connection that you have. And that call, I mean, it might have been chaotic, but you were able to keep them calm and go through it. And it led to where you're at now. Now you actually have known him longer than that, right? You had known him
I was
right in the past.
13. I was 13 and he was 18 when we
Hmm.
met.
So you've known each other throughout your whole lives. You end up going, and doing your own things, right? As life happens and stuff, and now years later, you end up coming back together. And through all of this, that is, like I said, it's sometimes things are just meant to be, and things happen for a reason. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And so, we go through all of this. You've got, about 24 years now in public safety. You started in 99. You've got these calls that stick with you, right? We all have some sort of call that sticks with us for whatever reason. This one especially, you're very, very close to. Before we get into one of the stories that ended up actually hitting basically all of media, I want to ask you this one question first. How do you feel like this job has kind of changed you in a way?
I have some unhealthy attachments.
Mhm.
um, I have a very twisted sense of humor now.
Oh, a
Um,
lot of us do, yes.
I use sarcasm as a weapon,
Mhm.
and I think it's made me a better person.
I can agree with that. I feel the same way, and the reason I say that too is because there are some situations that you get into, or maybe you don't get into, you're just observing, and maybe you're somehow pulled into it or whatever, but you are able to dip into your dispatch skills to navigate whatever that situation is. Like for myself, if someone like my my kid's mom, sometimes would be like, "Should we do something?" I'm like, "Hold on. Just hold on." Or others would say, "How can you stay so calm?" I'm like, "I'm trained." Like, I'm trained for this. I'm I'm able to keep calm when other people would blow up.
Oh no,
And
we have things that go on in the community around
Mhm.
us, and it's like, oh, Sarah Jane's got the axe and she's chasing Jethro around the yard. Hey, where's the beer and popcorn? You know, and
Right.
everybody's like, call 911, call 911. No, no, don't call 911. Call the non emergency number because Jethro's faster than she is. She's not going to catch him.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean, we're able to stay calm, right, in all kinds of situations, and where others um, would not be able to, we can, and we're able to dip into those, and it's a plus for us. But also, when you are with other public safety folks and you are joking about something, and you have someone that's in the group that doesn't come from there, I always love to see the look on their faces,
Uh-huh.
because it's always just, like like an, "Oh my god, are you for real?" Like, sometimes I always tell people, you have to have some form of dark humor or humor in general in public safety. There's a lot of other professions that are the same way, medical profession or whatever. You have to have a certain amount of humor, or else you're going to fully burn out, or things are just going to really, really get to you. It's not that you're making fun of anybody. It's not that you're making fun of anything. It's how we cope with certain things. You have to be able to find some sort of humor so that you can continue doing what you're doing. Otherwise, man, that's going to fuck you up.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
with that said, though, even though there's a lot of bad in 911, there's a lot of good in 911.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to change the audio here really quick. You might hear a slight echo, but it shouldn't be too long. It might just be for just a few seconds. But I want to play something, and for everybody who's watching, I mean, obviously you're going to be able to see this. For those who are listening, you'll just be able to hear the audio. But I want to play this because this was something that happened, and I just thought this was a very cool story. So I'm going to put this up on the screen here, and here we go.
How does a grandmother and a 6-year-old become good friends? A grandmother and a 6-year-old who a few weeks back were strangers.
St. Clair County 911.
A grandmother who's a dispatcher and a 6-year-old who loves her Barbies.
Well, how many Barbie dolls do you have?
20?
20? Yep, 20. So a few days before Christmas, Addie Cooper's mom donated some baby sharks, a dollhouse, and a Barbie doll to Goodwill. Addie Cooper had a problem.
I looked all over the house and I couldn't find it. I had those toys when I was 4.
Oh, so you've had them for a third of your life.
Yeah.
So they meant a lot to you. You were one upset kid, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
So Addie Cooper did what she had to do.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
Hello, some of my toys are missing.
Some of your toys are missing.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, some way, Addie Cooper grabbed her big sister's phone and dialed 911.
I had to tell her because it was an emergency. My Barbie.
Your
And
Barbies are gone.
yes. And also my baby shark toys.
Your baby shark toys are gone too?
Her Barbie, her sharks, missing.
They're a family. And if they lost each other, they'll never see them again.
Addie had more worries besides missing sharks and missing Barbie dolls.
In my dollhouse.
She took the house too?
Yeah.
There was good news that day for Addie Cooper. You see, St. Clair County Dispatcher Audra Owen has heard it all, and she let her love for kids kick in.
She was just a sweet, precious little child that needed somebody to talk to.
A sweet, precious child who thought she had it figured out.
Do you know where they went?
I think a bandit stole them.
A bandit stole them.
So it was a thief that was ruining Addie's week. Did you ever see the bandit?
Nope, they only come at night.
Audra settled down Addie over the phone, talked with the real bandit, Addie's mom, and made a new friend along the way.
She could have easily just hung up or, been ugly with me. Don't let your kid play on the phone, because they had bigger things to take care of. But she was so sweet.
I tend to adopt all the people that come into my life as my own kids.
An unexpected call to 911, a kind, understanding operator. And today, a dispatcher and a 6-year-old who can't get enough of one another.
She's my best friend.
That is so sweet. Well, how close have these two become? Audra's made good on her promise to go over to Addie's place and play Barbies. Now the doll house of the baby sharks, Addie received brand new ones on Christmas morning. And that is the story of Addie and the dispatcher.
That is awesome right there. That is so cool. So, excuse me. So, we heard everything that was there. What were your thoughts, I guess, when this was happening? Because she was doing what people tell our kids, right? We tell our kids, in an emergency, call 911. And I always tell people this, that whenever a call comes in, you treat it as a real, like, the way it's coming in, as an emergency every time, no matter how ridiculous it might sound or whichever, because a lot of times when people are calling in, that is their emergency. And obviously this, like she even says, it was an emergency. And for her, this was hers. And you take us through it. This is awesome.
I take children calls very seriously. Because a lot of people don't know, if you hand your child a deactivated cell phone, it's still going to call 911.
Mm-hmm.
We can't trace it. We can't really do anything with it. But if you can keep them on the line long enough, you can get enough clues to figure out what's going on, or you can get an adult on the phone.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And she was just distraught that her favorite toys were gone, and Leah's has become my best friend. She's my sister friend. She just didn't know what she had done when she took those precious little toys to the thrift store. And I got Addie on the phone, and I kept her on the phone long enough to convince her that, yeah, I need to talk to Mom. And Liz didn't realize that she could call 911. And we chit-chatted and everything, and a few weeks later, nobody told me Rick Carley was going to show up and want to interview us. I had no idea that it had done that, it had become that important to anybody. But they are still a huge part of our life. She calls my husband Granddad. She calls me Aunt Audra, but she calls my husband Granddad.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's some redneck country stuff, but it'll be okay. Liz got my husband and I involved in foster care and certified, and we currently have our 4th foster child. Everything in your life happens when it's supposed to and the way God wants it to happen. And I truly believe that Addie called 911 that day because God wanted her in my life.
That is excellent. And it's kind of like how the mom said, her mom said, anybody could have said, started maybe not yelling, but getting upset or whatever and saying, don't let your kid play on the phone or whatever. But I kind of teach this too at sessions where, I say our tone of voice, just the tone of voice, any little switch can completely change a phone call, can completely change the way a caller responds too, right? Because especially if you're calling for the first time and you get someone who sounds, crappy or whatever, a lot of times people don't want to answer questions then. And they just would rather say, okay, don't bother, or I'm sorry for bothering you or whatever. But it's like, no, that's what we're there for. And just listening to the audio, you're so sweet and so nice with her and stuff. And you're talking through that. And that's how you talk to children callers when they call in, because also the people who call in, I don't know about you, and maybe you'll agree with this, but the best callers are children when they call in.
Yes, they are.
Oh, man.
You never know what a kid's going to say.
That's true. Yes.
You never know. And sometimes it may not be somebody stole my Barbies. Sometimes it may be something really serious, and they know something really serious is going on. They just don't know who to reach out to.
Right.
I mean, you may take a child caller that's just wanting to play on the phone and just wanting to be a little asshole. We get plenty of those, But you may get a child caller that mommy's hitting daddy, daddy's hitting mommy, daddy hurt me, and the way that you talk to them and the way that you treat them on the phone is the way that you frame that conversation. If you start out with, you don't need to be playing on the phone, they're not going to open up to you and give you the information that you need.
Exactly. I fully agree with that. I mean, like I said, anything that we say, it's crazy, right? Because our most powerful weapon is our voice. People can't see us, no. Unless, with the new technology, they might be able or
I don't
whatever.
want anybody to see me.
Right? You get to see what they're seeing or whichever. However, when people are calling in, they're trusting in a voice, in a spot where they can get help. And if that voice is a voice that sounds like something that they might be dealing with at that moment, then they're lost. So it's up to us, to be able to control that and basically be human, right? Be the way we would
yeah.
want others to treat us if we were the ones who were calling in, or if our family members were calling in, friends, whichever. It's all up to us, and it's our choice, no matter
Yeah.
what.
And we make the choice every day to go to work, and we can either be on for our 12 hours or we can be a miserable cow. And life is always better when you choose not to be a miserable cow.
Love that. I agree. I love it. Yes. Because it helps everybody involved to begin with. The person who's calling, us, of course, because it also helps us keep calm too and keep them calm. But then also those in the field who are going out there. It helps everyone all together. Because if you go the opposite way, it also spreads
Oh,
all the way,
yes.
especially if you're working with a group of people. I remember one time someone saying, your attitude doesn't impact me or affect me when we're in the room together. And I said to that person, yeah, if I'm acting like an asshole coming in, you're going to feed off of that. You're going to feel it, and you're going to probably respond the same way. However, if I come in and I'm saying, hell yes, let's do this, we're going to rock this shift and we're going to do all this other stuff, you feel that, you get that vibe, and you want to be better, you want to do good, and teamwork, all that other good stuff. It's all in how you respond. It's all in how, you have your attitude and everything, your tone of
Mm-hmm.
voice, everything. Like I said, it's your choice. It's a choice you make. So this has been awesome to have you on here and to hear your story, and all of this that has been going on, your career, 24 years, what it was like in the beginning, how technology has changed, the story that you have with Liz and everything, and especially the call with your best friend as well. Thank you so much for sharing that, and for sharing for everyone who's going to hear this. Now, I've got one last question for you as we go into the wrap up of this episode. And that is, if you could go back in time 24 years ago with the knowledge that you have now, what advice would you give yourself?
Always strive to be better. Not better than anybody else, better than you were yesterday. You don't it's not about being better than Sally Jane that's sitting next to you. It's about being better than Audra was 24 hours ago.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, this was such a good episode. And I'm super glad that you didn't have to go after just 30 minutes, because it's already been like an hour and we've been talking, and it doesn't even feel like it's been that long. But again, thank you so much for being on and sharing your story. I appreciate it more than you know, and thank you for the job that you do.
Thank you for inviting me. I've been following you for a while, and I'm so excited that I got to meet you.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited that I got to meet you, because this was a story that I had been following as well. And like I said in the beginning, like, I was trying to figure out how to get a hold of you. So when you commented, I immediately just thought, yes, there she is. We're gonna get her on and we're gonna share that story and your entire story and everything. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
I'll be right back here with you in just one moment. And for those who are watching and listening, if you have any comments or questions, or you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us. And that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, that is wttpodcast@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Twitter. That is @91podcast. You can like us on Facebook. That is facebook.com/within the trenches podcast. And if you want to simply shorten it up, you can look in the bottom left-hand screen. For those who are listening, though, it is just links, and that is with 2 I's, links.co/WTT podcast. That'll take you to my bio page, and you'll be able to find all of my social media, my email, to book an episode, all that good stuff, the store, everything that you can find there, as well as if you want to become a patron of the podcast and help support us. So that is patreon.com/WTT podcast. You can also subscribe on Facebook. And that is facebook.com/within the trenches podcast/support. All of that comes with bonus episodes for Patreon specifically. That is discounts to the store, swag, stickers, just all kinds of different things. So make sure to check that stuff out there. And you can see this on YouTube, Facebook, as well as Twitter and LinkedIn. And then you can follow and listen to the audio versions of the podcast 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we'll see you in the next one.